Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's What's Buzzing. We're so excited that you all are joining us. We have a special group of people here assembled, the Dean of Students staff. We have a virtual session facilitated by John Stein, our Associate Vice President for Student Life, and Brandt-Fritz, Dean of Students Chair. And he's going to introduce you all to the Assistant and Associate Deans, just kind of taking a minute to get to know everybody and the faces that represent the Dean of Students office. We thought that was a really important thing for us to do. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dean Stein. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sharon, and greetings from my office here at Georgia Tech. I'm thrilled to be with you today, and I'm excited that I've invited some of the associate and assistant deans that work with me in supporting your students and guiding and advising your students. I do want to make a note that Dean Mazik was unable to make this session, so he will not be here today, but I have some other terrific staff, and I think how I'm going to begin is to ask them to each take a moment and introduce themselves, say a little bit about their background, and then also say a little bit about the job that they have here on campus and ways that they work with your students. So, Cherie, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Cherie Gibson, and I serve as the Interim Associate Dean of Students. I have been here at Georgia Tech for 20 years and have spent the majority of my time here on campus in housing and residence life. And I originally hail from the great state of Ohio. I have the pleasure of meeting with students, both undergraduate and graduate students, to talk to them about personal issues, academic issues, social issues, when they just kind of sometimes just need a place to figure it out. So that is a lot of what I do on the day-to-day basis. I also work closely with our team to assess how our programs and services are in the Office of the Dean of Students. And then I also represent Dean Stein whenever he asks me to represent him at different events. But our goal really is, and my goal really is to continue to support Georgia Tech students, both undergraduate and graduates.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good. Dean Ray, Stephanie Ray.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So nice to meet you. I'm Stephanie Ray, and I serve as one of the Associate Deans of Students. And I am in my 29th academic year at Georgia Tech. And I do things similar to what Dr. Gibson just mentioned. I meet with students daily, about a minimum of 6 or 7 students per day, many of them presenting with challenges that they're facing either academically or personally. And our what we do is direct them to the places on campus they need to go if it's not us. We support students in a myriad of ways. I advise a number of student organizations. I also partner with families in trying to find the best possible outcome for students. I too support undergraduate and graduate students, but my one of my roles is to be a liaison to the graduate office to work with graduate students. And like many of the other deans, one of the things that's kind of unique to what I do is that we administer what's called the Dean Griffith Hip Pocket Loan to students. So I'll let someone else go. Nice meeting you.
Right. Jameson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jameson Keller, and I serve as the Assistant Dean of Students and Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life. So that's a dual role. In my Assistant Dean role, I also do what Dr. Gibson and Dr. Ray does, just not every day, because the rest of my responsibility is overseeing and working with our fraternity and sorority community. And that involves about 25% of our undergraduate student population, just over 4,200 students now, with 55 independent student organizations. And so we work with 4 governing councils that are peer led and elected to support the 55 chapter presidents in areas such as housing, in terms of risk management, in terms of academic success, and then, of course, our leadership development. So happy to see you today.
And I do see that Travis Liggins has joined us representing Ron. So Travis, you want to say a little bit?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Travis Liggins. I serve as the Assistant Director in the Office of Student Integrity. I work closely with the Housing and Residence Life, as Dean Stein mentioned. I'm stepping in for the Associate Dean and Director of the Office of Student Integrity, Ron Mazik. So our office oversees academic integrity and student conduct cases such as plagiarism and underage drinking. But more importantly, we are here to help students to learn from their challenges, make better choices, and succeed at Georgia Tech. We just want to make sure that they not only leave with a degree at Georgia Tech, but also with some strong character and judgment. And throughout the year, we do a lot of tabling, programming, presentations, and trainings for all faculty, staff, and students on the code of conduct. We actually have the National Hazing Prevention Week coming up from September the 22nd through the 26th. During that week, we do tabling, providing information about anti-hazing and signs to look in the opportunity for students to sign our anti-hazing pledge, which we also partner with the Fraternity and Sorority Life and Athletics Department. But yeah, we're here to support students the best we can, making sure that they understand what integrity means and live it out through their everyday life.
Very good. Thank you. So let me just say how we'll proceed now. So I have one or two questions that I'm going to ask the panelists that they'll respond to, and then we're going to open it up to your questions. So just start thinking about questions that you would like to ask, all of them or any individual one. So my first question to the panelists is, we are a week and a half into the start of a new academic year and a semester. And the role that you serve, tell us what you think is on the minds of students 1.5 weeks in to starting an academic year. Jameson, why don't you go first?
I think it's a combination of two sort of big areas. One is academics. And so for the first time, our students are realizing that they are surrounded by other students who are just as academically prepared as they are. And for some of them, it might be the first time. And so they are wondering how they're going to perform in comparison to their peers. It might be a time where they're starting to fill in their calendar for the semester based on all of the assignments that are in their syllabi and trying to figure out how am I going to manage all of this. And juxtaposed to that would also be, where do I fit in? Where are my people? Even those students who already joined organizations are still beginning to meet others and beginning to build those relationships and wanting to make sure that they are being accepted and really feel like this is the best home away from home.
Right. Dean Ray.
Yes, what comes to mind is I think we have some students that are a little overwhelmed right now. They had a wonderful week of welcome. They had a little anxiety finding the classes that they needed to take. That worked out. And now they are becoming to be a little bit challenged by their classes and a little concerned and worried about how they're going to do this semester. All of our students want to do well academically. And when I'm meeting with them about this, I'm saying to them that they're trying to do everything all at once. They have to, the classes, trying to get in the organizations they want to get in. They're thinking about co-op, going to the job fair in a few weeks, trying to get an internship now, trying to do research, trying to do everything all at once. So what I try to tell them is just slow down. They don't have to do everything all at once. Just focus on a few things and the other things can be added later.
Very good. All right. Travis.
Yeah, sorry for the camera earlier. The thing that I would kind of lead on and add some additional things to what Dean Ray mentioned is I think oftentimes students focus so much on work, they forget about the necessities of like, eating and sleeping. They take so much time and like, okay, I want to get ready and be ready for my classes, do well on my exams and all of that. Sometimes that perfectionist mindset kind of comes to mind. And so reminding students to really, take time to eat, take time to get some rest, then also communicate their needs if they're struggling academically or socially, reaching out to their professors and advisors, and utilizing the many campus resources that we have available for them. And so I think it's just really important to know what those resources are and know how to ask for help and communicate your concerns as needed.
Very good. All righty. Dean Gibson.
Yes, I agree with everything that my colleagues have said. The one thing I would add is that I do think several of our students, even if they just started a week and a half ago, like they're brand new to Georgia Tech, is that they do have the end in mind already. And I think in some way they then miss kind of what's in front of them, like in that moment. So they're so focused on when they graduate in 4 to 5 years that they're missing kind of that experience and just kind of taking it day by day and coming up with a solid schedule that they can manage, and opportunities to really get connected to campus and finding things that they really enjoy doing. So I definitely think that's something that's on their mind, for sure.
Right. Very good. My second question, collectively, we have many, many years experience here at Georgia Tech, if you add up all of the years that each of you have been a part of Georgia Tech. My question is, how would you define the student culture at Georgia Tech? And then how would you define the overall culture at Georgia Tech? Okay, so if we think about culture and the place where our students live and study and socialize and stuff, how would you define the student culture? And then how would you define the overall culture at Georgia Tech? I'm going to turn to Dean Ray to go first this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Stein. First of all, I define culture as a way of life. And one of the reasons that I've been at Georgia Tech so long has to do with our students. Our students really come here wanting to make Georgia Tech and the world a lot better than when they found it. So students are not only wanting to better themselves, but they really want to better others and the entire world in many cases. And we have much evidence of this. Tech students are very, very dedicated to their studies. They want to do well. They want to engage not only in their studies, but also in research. Many of them want to be leaders. This is the last thing I want to say. I'm going to let someone else speak. So we often, I think we look at leadership too narrowly. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a president of a student organization, right? We have many students who have found, grown in leadership through their involvement in research and co-op and internships and starting a nonprofit, etc. So that, in my opinion, is just a little bit of the culture of our students and Georgia Tech as a whole. I'm not going to lie. Georgia Tech is a place that has high expectations of its faculty, the staff, and our students. We are one of the best institutions in the world, and that's where we grow and where we thrive.
Very good. Thank you. Jameson, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll share with you. Just yesterday, a group of students that I work with in a fraternity approached me to ask me to be a mentor for the development of a startup. And they're second year students. And so they were voting and struggling with within their fraternity about new membership. And so they decided to create an app that will make it easier for their organization to go through that process. And they want to share it with the rest of the community and then beyond. And so that is a testament to what it's like here at Georgia Tech. Our students are innovative, they are supported and challenged by faculty and staff, and ultimately they challenge each other and make each other better for it. And that's why it's a great place to be here. It's a great place to work and develop relationships with our students because they do absolutely amazing things.
Right. Very good. Dean Gibson.
Hey, thank you. So I think the Georgia Tech student culture is super fascinating, and I think it's been consistent for the most part, in my 20-year span here. But I like to think of it in two ways. I like to think that our students are really competitive, but they also rely on each other a lot. Like, it's just like a fascinating, I think, concept to watch. It's like they're competing with each other, but they also rely on each other to learn things about how to navigate the systems or to navigate problems they're trying to solve. So they both, um, in some places, you might think that feels like that kind of contradicts each other. But honestly, I think it's what has made Georgia Tech students much more fantastic and innovative and creative in their approach. So they know they can do it. They will stretch. They will figure out from A to B to Z. Like they will make it work. But they do that. I think a pretty good job of that alongside their peers, and I do think that's part of the culture.
Very good. Travis.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the student culture, I think they strive for excellence. I kind of mentioned earlier about being perfectionists. They want to do the best that they can. They're innovators. They always creating the next big thing. Even when I was a hall director, I had someone create a system that we used for many years because it just shows them and their mindset and how they're able to create things. They are global leaders. They're hard workers. As Dean Gibson mentioned, they're collaborators. They love to work with each other. But when I think of the overall culture, they're prideful. Once you're a part of the Georgia Tech community or Georgia Tech family, you will always be a part of that Georgia Tech family. They built on tradition. I think, and I'm trying not to be biased. I've worked at multiple institutions, but I think they have some of the best traditions here that I've seen in the course of years I've been at different institutions. So yeah, it's just an amazing experience.
Very good. Great. So in a moment, we're going to transition to your questions. But as you think about those questions, I just want to remind you that all of the associate and assistant deans have two responsibilities in addition to the many others that they have. One is they share the on-call system. So there's always a dean on call every day of the year. And our assistant and associate deans are on call for a week. They would pick up after hours and weekend calls and deal with any situations that arise. And, if for some reason you need to know something about your student that has happened, you would probably be receiving a call from the dean on call at that night or that weekend. The other thing they do is to share in the dean's appointments. All of us that work in the dean's area have appointments with students. We carve out times in our busy schedule to be available to students who want to talk about anything they want to discuss. It could be academics, it could be a personal, it could be financial, whatever it is they want to come in and talk to us about. They are welcome to set up an appointment. We do both virtual appointments and in-person appointments. And typically we can get a student in that same day or within 24 hours of requesting that appointment. We have many, many appointments over the course of an academic year, probably somewhere in the range of 1,000 student appointments. So, and we also have a referral system that faculty, academic advisors, students themselves, and some of you as family members use to kind of signal something about a student and asking us to follow up with that student, which we do. Okay, so it's a great team, a dedicated team, a very experienced team. And so I want to just reassure you that your students are in terrific hands. So now if you have a question, as Sharon has said, please put it in the Q&A and we'll be happy to have the panelists answer those questions. So while you're thinking of questions, here's what I'm going to ask, and maybe you can just respond to this as members who have chosen to log on here. Tell us how things are going for your student. What are they saying to you now? Just give us a sense as they start the academic year and the semester. How do you think things are going for them? And are there any real kind of positive things or challenges that you might want to just disclose at this point? No one's responded. Okay. All right. So at this time, we have no questions and no one's given feedback. I'm going to ask the panelists one more question. Give you a little bit more time if you can figure out a question you'd like to ask. Okay. So panelists, what I'd like for you to think about is, think about the ways that you feel you're best able to support Georgia Tech students in the role that you're in. How does that manifest, and what do you think you do to really help students and support them? Let's start with Travis.
Yeah, I think the first thing I can think of is just being a listening ear, a support system, be that kind of person that help direct them wherever they need to go. They can come to us if they don't really know where to go with their issue or problem. We're able to provide that direction to them. Us having the knowledge and understanding and different experiences that we have, we can kind of help them kind of figure, those situations out the best possible, especially stressful situations that students go through. We want to make sure that they have what they need to be supported in whatever given situation they're in. So I think that's the major thing, reminding them about the many resources that's available and letting them know that we're here to for them and care for them and want the best for them. I think that's the major thing.
Okay, very good. Jameson.
I would say in my role here, working as one of the staff in the Center for Student Engagement, I can best help students navigate the best connections and path for themselves. And so, of course, we want them to be academically successful, but part of that development also happens outside of the classroom. And we want them to get connected. We want them to make good decisions about how to spend that extra time in their own development. Is there a new skill that they would like to learn? And we can get them connected in a special interest organization. We have over 600 organizations, so there really is something for everyone. But then also alongside that, how to apply the things that they're learning inside the classroom, outside, in sort of a living laboratory experience, but then not overdo it. And so we help students navigate the time management aspects of making sure that they're not putting too much into one and not the other.
Great. Dean Ray?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I think sometimes students are afraid to come to the office of the Dean of Students. So I always try to provide a welcoming, friendly environment. I always want to make students feel comfortable. I also want them to understand the resources on campus. I think being here 29 years, I know Georgia Tech resources. So I'm able to offer the student resources in a very timely manner. And I think lastly, I'm going to get real. I think I meet a lot of students who they could be like a little down or afraid or worried, let's just say. Or maybe they have not been given what they need, right? And what I mean by that is what I try to do is I try to pour life into students to build them up and also to teach them resilience, because helping them understand that life happens to all of us at some point. It may just be something different, but life happens to us all, and that it's important for them to build their resilience muscle, that they
Right.
can survive this, that tomorrow it's going to be a different day, and to give them hope, if that makes sense.
Right.
Thank you.
All righty, Dean Gibson.
I agree with what my colleagues have said. I think one of the things that I try to do when I meet with our students is to become curious about who they are and what they're about and what's important to them. Because one of the things that they have often described to me is that when they're in the classroom, there's a lot of like information coming at them. And so there's not always an opportunity for people to kind of get to know them in the classroom. So I like to open up the space so they feel like there are people here that want to get to know them, want to learn about their goals, want to learn about their backgrounds. And so I tend to ask just some questions just to open up the space. And I have found that in doing so, that does kind of take some of the stress down and okay, there's someone here who cares. And okay, you're not judging me. You're truly here to support me. So I love what my colleagues have shared, and I believe I contribute to the conversation by also just being curious about who they are and who they're trying to become.
Great. So panelists, at this point, what I'm going to say is there's some statements and questions in the Q&A or chat. So if you want, you can go in and just type an answer. Also, what I want to do now, though, is just to read some of them. So this one says, my student is seeing that classes are moving very fast and they cover a lot in 1 week. Student is trying to adjust to a new style of learning and living. Absolutely. I'm teaching freshman seminar this fall, and a student said the very same thing in my class last week. He said, we covered all of what we did in chemistry in 1 week that we did in 1 semester in high school. And so he was amazed at kind of how quickly it all kind of was summarized and stuff. All right. This one says, my freshman daughter is feeling lonely. She's out of state student, and so nobody from our town is in GT, but she started checking out different student organizations and hopefully should make new friends soon. Also, with class started, she's starting to connect with her classmates. Great point. So what I want to just remind everyone is that students have only been here a matter of days. It may feel longer than that. And for them, it may feel like I should be ahead of where I am now, but it will happen. And we have to just remind them that they've only been here a short period of time, and to be patient and to connect with people in their classrooms, outside of their classrooms, in their residence halls. And, eventually they will find their people and find the group that they really want to be a part of. So I'm going to present a question, and the way we'll do it is any one of you that feel like you really want to answer this question, then feel free to do it, okay? So it says, my student is having a good experience, but what are some of the additional resources to support them if something were to come up? Any one of you will want to answer that.
I'll start by
Okay.
one. So, like I said earlier, life happens to all of us. And many times, or sometimes, students may need to be away from class due to they're ill. They may have a family member that's ill. They may have had to travel out of town for a valid reason, etc. So the Office of the Dean of Students, we handle the majority of class absences for our students. And we also work with students who need approved absences for religious accommodations as well. One of the things I didn't mention, I can't believe I didn't mention this, is that I have about 80 campus chaplains who report to me. So I work with students and the chaplains regarding with spiritual and religious life, as well as dealing with individuals from non-faith backgrounds. But so we work with students to get that absence excused. We strongly encourage parents. You could tell your students this, and I know you heard this from Dean Stein at Facet Orientation. but helping your students to understand that it always helps if we know from the front end rather than the back end, and helping students to understand that documentation will make that process go a lot better. So that's one of the things we do for students.
Okay. Anybody want to add anything? Okay, so here's another one. I heard the word competitive students, the words competitive students. May I know if you are talking with students about healthy competition? Anybody want to answer it?
I can attempt to answer it because I was certainly someone that would describe our students as competitive. We as a division or cabinet area have been focusing really heavily in the last several years around wellness. And so there are many departments across campus, housing and residence life being one, student engagement, fraternity and sorority life, that have taken the time to really look at those dimensions, those 8 dimensions of wellness, and really built out programming that are teaching students healthy habits around their well-being. And so we know that wellness is different for everyone. So students can opt in, of course, to what programs or initiatives that we offer. But we certainly have been, I think, working as a collective, both the Institute and specifically our division area, on figuring out, yes, how to recalibrate what we're really talking about when it comes to competition, and really what we are meaning in that is how can we be well in this and make really healthier decisions for ourselves.
Right, right. The next question is, what should I encourage my student to do or attend during their time at Georgia Tech?
I think that's going to be more on a case-by-case basis, right? Some students really want to spend the first semester really getting adjusted academically and just meeting others, while students really just want to jump right in the deep end. And so I would say the best bet would be to just do a little bit of planning, right? We have a student organization fair happening today. That might be just a good first opportunity to narrow down some interests and what groups they may want to get involved in and take a look at. We have quite a number of events that are just a one-time only. So maybe if it's the student that wants to fit in but also balance academics, they just attend, an event in the student center and meet others, but it's not a huge commitment. And so we have on our engage.gotech platform, it's our student organization and event platform that all students are connected to. They can go on there and just look at all the different events that are available. And with 600 organizations and all of these other departments, there is plenty for them to look through.
Yeah, great.
I'd
All right,
like to add to that.
go ahead. Mhm.
Somewhere in Dean Stein, you've seen this. There is a list somewhere. A lot of times it's published in our school paper, the technique. There's a list of things students should do before they graduate, and I think that's really cool. But one of the things I'm going to say, I don't care if you like the sport or not. I would hate to see a student graduate from Georgia Tech and not attend one home football game. I think every student should do that, because I think at the football game, you could see so much of Tech's rich tradition. And it's a time for students to just forget about like their worries and their troubles and come together. And for me, it's one of the times that we're all yellow jackets, right? We're yellow jackets. If we forget about our worries, we forget about our differences. That's when we come together in one of Tech's richest traditions. Everybody should go to at least one home football game before they graduate.
Absolutely, I agree completely. It's an event, not just the football game. It's the band, it's the cheerleading, it's everything. It's the whole package. So indeed. So this mom says, my son's loving tech, and he's very happy with classes, his roommate, and other students. However, a week and a half in, I'm adding a week and a half in, he seems somewhat stressed about an internship for next summer. Do you have any advice? I can answer this question. So my advice is we're a week and a half in. Okay. So you can plan this, but what you probably can do, which would help you a great deal, is to make your way over to Career Services and meet with the staff that really work with internships. Sit with them, get the guidance they offer you in terms of how to go about finding an internship in the field that you're interested in. Make it more about informational kinds of discussions first before you actually look to apply for internships, okay? So get a little bit of information, get some guidance from the professional staff that work with internships and work with companies, and then I think that would help the kind of stress around, securing an internship. All right? So the next question is, thank you for all you do for our students. As a parent, what is some of the key times of the fall semester that you would anticipate our students will be at a higher stress level than others? Times, weeks that you would recommend that we check in with them?
I'll ask my colleagues to help me if this cadence doesn't seem 100% correct. But when I tend to see students the most stressed is during their midterms, and midterms vary by the course. So sometimes it's like every 3 to 4 weeks when they have a major exam that's going on in that course, and they're super stressed. And sometimes just a gentle check-in and a gentle reminder of, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you showering? Are you doing something to maybe exercise and release some of that stress in a healthy way? Are some questions that I would encourage you to ask, because sometimes they just get in a zone and they just forget about all of the basic things that they need to do to help keep themselves well. We also sometimes see an uptick of students getting sick because they aren't sleeping, they aren't resting the way that they need to, they're not eating the way that they need to. So again, those are why those questions I think are important. But I'm thinking it's usually every probably 3 to 4 weeks where that peak of stress seems to come into play. And then again, as we get closer to finals, you will also see that. So even maybe around that Thanksgiving break time when they're coming home, they're going to come home and then they're going to come back to campus, and it's like maybe a couple instruction days, maybe a couple reading days, but they're going to be hitting finals. So yeah, that is the cadence. I don't know, colleagues, am I missing anything on that?
I would just like to add that I think sometimes they underestimate time. They think that they always have enough time to catch up. For example, like Dean Gibson said, I think right before breaks, I see a little bit of stress from students because they think that, or when they come back, because they think when they go out for fall break or spring break or Thanksgiving before they come back for their finals, they think that they have enough time to make up all the work that they've missed, but sometimes they underestimate just how much time they needed to complete the work. So that is, I see a lot of stress around that time. So also when midterm grades come out, so all of our students will get, who are taking like first year and second year courses, will be assessed at midterm whether they are satisfactory, are they looking at the course satisfactory or unsatisfactory, and they'll get those temporary grades like posted, sent that information. Well, it's not doom and gloom, but it is a wake up call, so they'll know what to do to obtain the grades that they seek.
Yeah. So I think for new first year students and potentially transfer students, depending on what year they transferred in, week 5, that's when I would say check in with your student, because week 5 is typically around when the first exam will occur. Okay, and that'll be the first kind of test in terms of how they fared on the exam and the grade that they've earned here at Georgia Tech, which may be very different than the grade they've earned in high school. Okay, so first of anything, first round of exams, first paper that they need to hand in, first project that they're working on, if you could get them to kind of just share some information about that. And then, as Dean Ray said, somewhere around week 6 is when progress report grades are due, and they will be posted so that students can see those. It's an S for satisfactory or a U for unsatisfactory. You will not be able to see those grades unless your student shows and gives you access to that, but they will be able to see it. And then it will flow to the midterm point, and then it will flow along the way into finals. So there's a kind of cadence to the semester. And they will pick up on that in terms of peaks, and then things peter off a little bit and then peak back up as they go through their exam period and stuff. So just have them talk to you about that. Okay. A question here is, are students allowed to stay in GT in winter break if needed, and will dining facilities be available at that time?
Yes, they can stay. If they're living on campus and living in a residence hall, yes, they can stay in their residence hall. Dining typically is not open, but other retail places might be that are close to campus. But again, those schedules are going to be fairly limited because they know that most students are traveling and there's not a lot of foot traffic around. Jameson, I don't know about Greek housing. How does that work?
Yes, all of the fraternity and sorority houses are open during the fall and winter breaks.
Okay. So another question here is, what is the best way for the student to reach the Dean of Students office? Are there some events where they can discuss about if it's okay to approach the office? Okay, so they want to know what's the best way to reach us? And are there some events where they can discuss about how it's okay to approach the office? Dean Ray, you want to take it?
I was getting ready to put a link in the chat. So Dean Stein had mentioned earlier that the student themselves or a parent or even a friend can refer a student to the office of the Dean of Students, but a student can go to our website, which I'll post in the chat later. Maybe Sharon can find it and post it now, where they can just go online and fill out a form to request assistance. Also, on the slide that you see that has all of our offices on there, there's a phone number that you'll see that appears most often, the 404-894-2565. The student or parent can call that number and you will talk with a front office person who will work with the student to get an appointment or to ask us a question or ask us to respond to a student. But those are two of the best ways to request assistance from someone in the Office of the Dean of Students.
In the first week of classes, I had a very fun conversation with a student who ended up on my calendar. He came in and I said, how can I help you? And he said, actually, I don't need a lot of help right now. I'm a first-year student. I just came in to introduce myself and meet you. See, so students can also come in just to meet us. They don't have to come in with a problem. You know, and students don't realize that too, that they can just stop in. And sometimes it's nice just to meet somebody like a dean, who you can just introduce yourself to and say, and I said, that this is great. Just tell me a little bit about your background. Where are you from? You know, how did you choose Georgia Tech? I mean, and we had a great conversation. And so it's not, encourage your students. It's not only about having problems to come in. You can just come in and meet us and have a conversation and introduce us to you and tell us a little bit about yourself. So now this parent says that, you know, their freshman son is from out of town and he seems very busy all the time, has not been talking to the family at home much. How can I, as a parent, better support my kid and know if he's doing well or potentially needs help? Okay. Let me answer this. So here's what I'm going to say is that the person who holds the answer to this is your son. Okay. And so I think you just need to have a kind of casual but direct conversation to say, you know, how are things going? And also to say, you know, look, can we agree that at least once a week you will check in with us in whatever way, a text, a phone call, but just let us know how it's going. I always encourage families at orientation to have a plan as your students begin this experience so that, you know, you both of you have an understanding as to how often you're going to communicate. And let him know that it's difficult to go days and weeks without having any communication and any understanding of how you're really doing. Okay, so start there and see where it goes from there. All right. This parent is asking, are you able to talk about housing for next year? See, it's amazing. We're a week and a half in and we're focused on next year. I do get it though. When do they need to apply for on-campus housing and when will they hear if they have it? Knowing that it's not guaranteed, how and when do students typically seek off-campus housing as a backup? And I'm going to ask Dean Gibson to talk to this because she has much experience in the housing space.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I believe I wouldn't be surprised. I believe housing has probably already started to send some correspondence out to current residents about the process for next year. So if you look on the housing website, which is housing.gatech.edu, you can scroll down to the bottom and there's some important upcoming housing dates that are listed there. And one of the first ones straight away is for returning residents for the academic year of 2026-2027. And that lottery process begins September 9th. Okay, so it's already out there. The information is out there. The application timeline is already out there. So I would pay attention to that. And I would also encourage you to ask your student to check their email or go into the My Housing portal, which is on the website as well, log in and see what correspondence has been coming from housing to let them know. We have historically had a pretty decent amount of second year students that live on campus. It's usually majority of the first year classes there, a nice sector of the second year, and then it sort of changes after that because students are studying abroad, they're doing internship co-ops that are outside of the city. So it really just depends, but it's going to be important that you adhere or your student adheres to those deadlines, and housing can also give you some feedback on when you should seek off-campus options. Also on the housing website is a website about off-campus housing options. They have done a great job of creating a comprehensive list of places near and around campus that have housed Georgia Tech students, gives you pricing, location, things of that nature. So that does exist on that website as well.
Yeah. So I think what this clearly illustrates is what your students are going to need to be able to do. And that is that even in the brief time that they're here, as they're managing their transition to tech, if they're new students and stuff, they have to have one eye to the future. And you can see that in terms of housing starting in September. They'll pretty soon be getting information about registration for spring semester. So as they are making their way through this semester, they need to make sure they're reading their email and messages to know what deadlines are coming up and what obligations they have to guarantee housing and registration. Okay, so please reinforce that. I'm going to have one more question, and then I'm going to ask the panelists to just some final thoughts. So it says, my son is very shy and has a hard time reaching out to counselors and agencies. You mentioned that parents can reach out to have counselors reach out directly to the student. So a quick response to that is that our therapists or counselors will not reach out to the students. However, if you send a referral into the dean's office, we will reach out to your student, have a conversation, and if we feel that your student would benefit from meeting with a counselor, we will make that referral to the Center for Mental Health so that they can sit with a counselor and discuss whatever they need to discuss. Okay, but because of the nature of the role of the therapist counselor, they would not reach out, but the dean's office would, and we can help facilitate that. Okay. All right, so we're going to wrap this up because we're getting out of time here. And what I'm going to ask is each of the panelists to give some final thoughts to families and stuff on whatever you want to say in terms of success or transition, whatever you choose to. But let's give them some final thoughts. And let me start with Travis this time.
Sure. The one thing that I would want to mention, which seems simple, but it goes overlooked, and that is for your students to read their syllabus. Many students don't read their syllabus, and sometimes it end up costing them. And so the syllabus normally often tell you what degree you can, say, collaborate with another student, or the degree that you can utilize AI, such as ChatGPT and things like that. So these misunderstandings often lead to preventable issues. So just make sure that your student knows to look that over, to make sure they know what they can and cannot do for the class. And then again, communicate their needs as much as possible. If they're having any struggles, go to office hours for their classes. Make sure they utilize the counseling services that we have available on campus, the tutoring services. All of those things are at their disposal.
Great. Okay. Dean Gibson.
I would just like to say, if you could just please remind your student that it's okay to ask for help. Georgia Tech is a very well-resourced campus. Travis gave a nice list of a variety of what those resources are, but I would like to just say it's okay to ask for help. There are people here that are ready to help and want to help and are willing to help, and that it is a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness if you need help and support. And also, don't wait to the last minute to do that. Be on the front end. Nothing is too small to get some help with if you need it.
Right. Dean Keller.
Dr. Gibson stole mine, so I'll add an additional thought, and that's okay, Sheree. I would say to unplug. Our students are so, I would say, sometimes overly connected to technology. Many of them are majoring in it. And so if they could just take an hour or two and unplug their phone, get off of social media, and just experience Georgia Tech in its beauty, walk around campus, um, go to the top of the Clough Center and look at the skyline of Midtown. It's beautiful, just so that they can kind of be in the moment and just reflect on everything that they've achieved so far and what they want to achieve in the future, just every once in a while.
Very good. All right, bring us home, Dean Ray.
Oh my goodness. So I'm just going to reiterate a little bit what Dean Gibson said. Working on quite a few college campuses during my long career. If I can pinpoint two reasons why students are not successful at any college, I've kind of narrowed it down to two. Number one, didn't take advantage of the campus resources. And number two, they didn't have resilience. Also, I would always love to challenge students to not compare themselves to others. They are their own unique individual self, right? And they always feel that, oh, this person is here and I'm not there yet. And no, 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 no. You are where you are supposed to be at that moment in time. And I also keep reminding themselves that delay is not denial. Delay is not denial. One last thing, and parents, when students start challenging your knowledge and your wisdom, this is something my mother told me to, and it always put me in place. She said, Stephanie, I have forgotten more than you will ever know. And I said, that always put me in place.
Hmm. Great way to end. I'm going to turn it over to Sharon now.
Thank you, panelists, so much. We appreciate your time today. Thank you, Dean Stein, for leading us so well with our panel. Shameless plug for the how can I support my student? You can, of course, come week 5 to Family Weekend. When Dean Stein said week 5, I was like, wait, something else is happening during week 5. So tonight at midnight, Family Weekend registration ends. And of course, just being involved in the Hive and knowing what's going on and having the pulse of campus is always going to give you a great and strong talking point when you are having these moments with your student with discussions. So you can say, hey, I heard about that career fair. Have you checked it out yet? I've heard about this fair or this and that. So anyway, stay plugged in with the Hive. We're so glad that you knew about this panel through that resource. And we wish you luck on the rest of your week. And we thank you again, panelists and Dean Stein. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Go Jackets.